Hello viewers and welcome back to Paul Fletcher International for round 5 of the Elite Karting Series 2024 season. We've had 2 races already this afternoon. Both of them have been absolute crackers and I have a feeling that this one is going to be the same. Phil Jackson starts on pole position with Mark O'Grady joining him on the front row of the grid. Brad Whitehouse and Crissy Harding make up row 2. Chris O'Connell is in 5th position with the last race winner Andy Laister starting in 6th. Hugh Morriton and Adam Thompson are row 4. Row 5 of the grid is Miles Harding and Ethan Vince-Adozi with Ross Sandwell and Dane Christensen rounding out your grid in 11th and 12th. So Split 2 Race 2 is about to get underway. We'll be looking for 5 red lights on the gantry. Once they go out, we'll be racing for 12 minutes here at Paul Fletcher International. Here are the lights. Phil Jackson on pole, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go. They were held for quite a while on at the grid. A fantastic start from Crissy Harding off of 4th position. She flies into the lead of the race. Mark O'Grady can see that as he makes his way through. Actually under a little bit of pressure here from Andy Laister, who goes down the inside line and is able to find a way through. Started 6th on at the grid, and Andy Laister all the way up into 2nd position at the start of the race. Mark O'Grady trying to follow him through here as they make their way through the bridge section as Crissy Harding doesn't make a fantastic exit there. Andy Laister into the lead of the race. Mark O'Grady looking to make it 3 wide potentially here as they go down into hairpin 1. Mark O'Grady for the lead of the race, backs out of the brakes just a little bit earlier, gets past Crissy Harding though, but it's Andy Laister by the looks of things into the lead of the race, Ed.
Yeah, difficult situation for Crissy Harding. Fantastic start, but now under attack as she gets barged out of the way for 4th place there.
She does, but she's still on the outside line here as they go down into the left-hander of turns 8 and 9. She's on the inside line for the right-hander and is able to squeeze her way through. Brad Whitehouse looking to be the beneficiary out of this. Adam Thompson is getting involved as well. Brad Whitehouse down the inside line. He's now trying to get past Ethan Vince-Adozi as he goes to the inside line and is just about able to squeeze his way through, but Ethan gets back to the inside and is back into that spot. It'll be interesting what the timing tower says as to where everyone has been at the end of this first lap. We know it's Andy Laister in the lead of the race ahead of Mark O'Grady, Crissy Harding, Ethan Vince-Adozi and Phil Jackson. It's not a start that Phil Jackson would have wanted. Here goes Brad Whitehouse on the outside line. Adam Thompson has now been overtaken as here goes Mark O'Grady for the lead of the race down the inside line as they head onto the Litchfield Bridge. He's into the lead.
Yeah, fantastic move there from Mark O'Grady. Really bided his time, but Andy Laister is coming back at him as they go towards the hairpin downhill. And he's really got to pick his breaking point here. Mark O'Grady leaves plenty of room. Andy Laister retakes the lead.
He does, and there's some interesting battling going on further behind as well as Crissy Harding has now been overtaken by Ethan Vince-Adozi. He's into 3rd position, I believe. In fact, I think Brad Whitehouse has got ahead of him as well, so he actually falls into 4th position potentially. Crissy sinking a little bit here, but she's desperately trying to get people to work with her to try and go forward. Mark O'Grady still looking at Andy Laister for the lead of the race. Of course, Andy won that previous Split 2 race from mutual agreement, didn't end up getting promoted from that into Split 1, and now looking to actually earn promotion this time round as well. But Mark O'Grady will be hungry to get after that. Here he gets the exit, trying to find a way through, and Andy Laister ducking into the steering wheel. He's got the run. Can he get to the inside line early enough? I don't think he can. Closing and closing and closing. Andy Laister under a lot of pressure, Ed.
He certainly is, but defending well so far, and did well to retake the lead as soon as possible then. As meanwhile behind, I'm just looking at Crissy Harding having a crazy battle. I think that's Ross Sandwell just in front of her.
Mark O'Grady slightly wide on the exit of Litchfield Bridge, hitting that curb on the left-hand side. Don't want to be over that too much, will kill you. A run down into hairpin 1, and that's what he's experienced here, but tighter than Andy Laister into that hairpin. Gains a little bit of time. Andy looking comfortable in the lead of the race for now. Riding on board with Adam Thompson for a moment because he's got a few karts just ahead of him. The driver ahead of Adam Thompson at the moment is going to be Crissy Harding. Ethan Vince-Adozi is a little bit down the road. Also, if you look to the drone, it looks like Brad Whitehouse is looking to try and find a way through here. He's battling along, and well, for Brad Whitehouse, this has been not an ideal run. He's all the way into 4th position, I believe. So he's now battling along with, from what I can tell, it won't be Crissy Harding. She's under pressure from Ethan Vince, putting pressure on Ethan Vince-Adozi. But he is battling Brad Whitehouse and battling for 3rd as well. Crissy Harding, meanwhile, is looking for that spot. Adam Thompson now looking to get past Crissy.
Yep, certainly Brad Whitehouse continuing to put the pressure on Phil Jackson. He was very, very quick in the first race as well, as there's a crazy battle behind him with Ross Sandwell just holding on to 5th from Ethan Vincidosi and Crissy Harding, and then we see is Adam Thompson and Hugh Moreton going side by side then as they go over the bridge.
It is, and as we make our way down into hairpin 1, trying to see if Mark O'Grady can find his way through hairpin 2, can't do it there. Mark O'Grady looking for the position still from Andy Laister, who is holding on remarkably well at the moment, but interestingly, Miles Harding is looking ahead of him because he can see Hugh Moreton having a battle. It's down the inside. I don't think that was Hugh actually in the end. That might have been Ross Sandwell who goes down the inside line of Adam Thompson, was it? And it is, and finds his way through. No, it was Hugh Moreton. Wow, he's got a new suit, Hugh. I didn't anticipate that, but that is his helmet. Goes down the inside line of Adam Thompson and finds his way through into 8th position. This is fantastic for Hugh Moreton, who last time out at Milton Keynes had such a difficult run, particularly in that first race. Well, he's up and fighting in this one.
He certainly is then, and Adam Thompson a little bit surprised there. But Mark O'Grady, meanwhile, has now got Phil Jackson and Brad Whitehouse for close company in this leading quartet here. So Andy Laister is going to have to drive the widest car ever, and it's not wide enough. Up the inside goes Mark O'Grady as they cross the bridge, but he'll have the inside for the exit as they go downhill.
Go downhill, and this gives Mark O'Grady the chance to get to the inside line. It will be a bit of a dive bomb from here. He's slightly alongside as he goes to the inside line. Mark O'Grady, for the lead of the race, is able to find his way through. Is he? There's going to be 3 wide here. Is inviting himself alongside here is Phil Jackson in 3rd place. Mark O'Grady under pressure. Andy Laister in the lead of the race, and Mark O'Grady on the brakes into hairpin 2 holds on to 2nd position, but that was a mighty scare.
And look at Brad Whitehouse now taking advantage. Jackson wasn't able to get through, and he is just waiting like a hawk here as there's another opportunity to go up the inside of Mark O'Grady. Phil Jackson snatches away 2nd position from Mark O'Grady.
He does, and well, this is music to the ears of Andy Laister, who knows that pretty much this is working in his favour. If these continue to battle, he's going to be able to get home dry, so to speak, at the end of this race. So Mark O'Grady needs to turn his attention back forward, but he's under pressure from Brad Whitehouse as they make their way through the long left-hander of turn 3. It's a little bit of an oversteer moment for Phil Jackson. That gives Mark O'Grady the run on the inside line. He favours this move over the Litchfield Bridge, but it's not going to upset Phil Jackson, who holds on for now. Brad Whitehouse might fancy his chances with a run here down into hairpin 1. He gets to the inside line of Mark O'Grady, who himself is going to get to the inside line of Phil Jackson. Now Brad Whitehouse to the outside line will look for the switchback move, and he does cut the lines across, but he's not quite able to fully get alongside. Mark O'Grady still having to get defensive as here goes Brad Whitehouse now on the outside line. Mark O'Grady holding on though, the inside line into the hairpin, just favourable. Brad gets the switch back again, as you can see from Mark O'Grady's camera, and Brad to the inside line into the left right of 8 and 9 is able to find a way through. That's fantastic racing from Brad Whitehouse, knew exactly what he was doing there and was really, really strong in his move. I could also see Ross Sandwell battling along with what I believe is Crissy Harding.
Yeah, indeed, that battle's somebody went really off track there in the middle sector there, but that leading quartet then still squabbling away like crazy, and Brad Whitehouse is now up to 3rd. It's amazing, it's his first time at PFI as well. He's been so quick, he always seems to be lighting up the lap times, and I think Phil Jackson might be looking in his rear mirrors, if he had any on the kart, which he doesn't of course, he would be looking in there.
Yes, looking over his shoulder, certainly so, as now Andy Laister under pressure from Phil Jackson for the lead of the race. Andy has been getting very defensive throughout the early stage of this one, as here goes Brad Whitehouse now down the inside looking for 2nd position. You can see this with Mark O'Grady's on board, can't quite get the brakes applied well enough, and Phil Jackson holds on as now Phil looks for the lead of the race. Andy Laister is just far enough ahead where Phil can't really make that move down the inside line, and as they make their way into 8 and 9, all of a sudden Phil Jackson is having to go defensive to Brad Whitehouse, but I think it's worked against him as Brad gets to the exit as they make their way to the top of the circuit. They are so close.
Indeed they are, and Whitehouse just doing very, very well to keep his momentum up, especially through the slightly tighter, twistier hairpins in that middle sector. But look how defensive Andy Laister is getting, looking over his shoulder here, because here comes Jackson and Whitehouse.
There'll be 3 wide heading down into turn 1. Brad Whitehouse on the outside of it all. Andy Laister swallowed up. He loses out on the lead of the race. Phil Jackson's in the lead briefly, but Brad Whitehouse fancies his chances on the outside line. He's got the run, but Phil Jackson to the inside line. Mark O'Grady gets past Andy Laister as well. Brad Whitehouse can't get to the lead, but he takes the wider line through the Litchfield Bridge to try and get to the inside for hairpin 1. He's got the run and he gets alongside. Brad Whitehouse looking for the lead of the race. He's going to get on the brakes early enough and he's going to get to the lead. Brad Whitehouse into the lead of the race. Phil Jackson getting the lines back across, and he's pointing at something as Andy Laister's on the outside of Mark O'Grady, who looks back to the inside line to try and hold on to third position. Brad Whitehouse in the lead ahead of Phil Jackson, ahead of Andy Laister now as Mark O'Grady continues to be under pressure from fifth place. Ethan Vincent-Dotsey, I believe.
And Mark O'Grady now has got a grandstand view. Unfortunately, he's gone from being in second to sort of being at the back of that group, but he's still got a chance here. I believe that's Andy Laister and Jackson just in front of him then. But yeah, superb driving from Brad Whitehouse to take the lead. Can he hold on to it then? Because Laister is going to be very, very keen to take it back now.
There's just a correction, he was looking over his shoulder, Mark. There wasn't actually any pressure from Ethan Vincent-Dotsey, so I think he just got a little bit spooked there, thinking that there might have been a cart on his inside line, when actually there wasn't. It spooked me as well, clearly, as Mark now looks to the inside line of Andy Laister. He's able to get that tighter run through into turn 3 and able to find his way through as well into the Litchfield Bridge. So he's back into third position, now gets the run on Phil Jackson as well, as Brad Whitehouse looks to be accelerating away in the lead of this one.
Yep, now he's got the lead. He's got a lot of clean road in which to set those lap times then. So Phil Jackson will be desperately trying to duck into the slipstream. But meanwhile, behind even Vincent-Dotsey, there's a great battle with Crissy Harding and Dane Christensen fighting over 6th as well.
To the very closing stages of this race, I believe we've only got actually about a lap or so to go, so not too far from the checkered flag. It's a little bit tricky here to spot when the race is going to end, and that's something that the drivers share as well, as Brad Whitehouse under increased pressure from Phil Jackson as they make their way through the final corner to cross the line. Not sure whether this will 100% be the final lap of the race, but we'll wait and see, as Mark O'Grady has a fantastic view of this battle from third position, but needs to not get complacent as Andy Laister is right on his back bumper. Phil Jackson then to the inside line. Brad Whitehouse covers him off for now. That gives Mark O'Grady the run, but he can't quite get ahead of Phil Jackson here because Phil just sort of backs him up ever so slightly. So Phil Jackson, last real chance to try and get the lead of this race, or certainly in the closing stage of this race, is into his last chances to try and get the lead.
Yeah, time definitely starting to ebb away then, and is that leading group of Whitehouse, Jackson, O'Grady, Laister, and you can see Laister trying to put a little bit of pressure on O'Grady from the drone camera, but O'Grady, as you can see on board, is far more focused on Phil Jackson ahead of him than Andy Laister behind him.
Absolutely, as we fly low onto the back straight to see Brad Whitehouse looking over his shoulder. He's got a pretty comfortable margin back to Phil Jackson. Whether the checkered flag greets him at the end of this lap or not, we're not too sure, but we'll wait and see as Brad Whitehouse rounds the final couple of corners. We'll turn our attention to the gantry. Is it going to be checkered this time? By it is, and Brad Whitehouse is going to take victory in the EKS, and you can see how much it means to him because he's worked very, very hard for this. He's promoted into Split 1. He had a good run at Milton Keynes, and at PFI his run has been even better. Brad Whitehouse, your winner in a topsy-turvy race ahead of Phil Jackson, Mark O'Grady and Andy Laister. Shout out as well to Ethan Vincent-Dotsey, a fantastic run up into 5th position.
Brad Whitehouse put in a stunning drive in that race to go from 7th place at the end of lap 1 to P1 at the end of the race, ahead of Phil Jackson, Mark O'Grady and Andy Laister, who all had a fantastic race there, battling away with each other and with Brad Whitehouse. Ethan Vincent-Dotsey had a best ever result in the EKS of P5 ahead of his friend Crissy Harding, whilst Dane Christensen recovered from a crash on lap 1, got involved in someone else's incident and then recovered all the way up to 7th place. A great recovery drive there by Dane Christensen ahead of Chris O'Connell. Hugh Morrington was then up in P9 ahead of Miles Harding, with Adam Thompson getting a little bit unlucky there with his car. You can see he was a little way off the pace in that race. He's down in 11th place, and then Ross Samwell unfortunately broke down at the end of the race. That car will not be seen again today. He ended up finishing in 12th place. We can now head down to the grandstand where I'm with Brad Whitehouse. Okay, I'm here with Brad Whitehouse. What a drive that was in that previous race. How did that go for you?
Yeah, it was good to be fair. Off the start, I lost like 3 or 4 places, but then I kind of made my way back up slowly, and then it was just a battle for the top 3. And then on the first corner, we went 3 wide, and I think I got a bit lucky because I had the inside. So, and then I just managed to go my way around the outside and then up the long hairpin, and then I kind of just managed the gap after that. But it's really close battling, to be fair.
How was the track? How did you find it?
It's a really good track. It's really grippy out there. Like you can tell that the Pro Cops come around here because the amount of grip is just so grippy around, and you just fly really. It's just such a good track.
Good to hear you had fun. Well done.
Cheers, mate.